Blind Guides Episode 6, Interview with Steve, from Steve Fox and York the Guide Dog.
Thank you, everybody, for tuning back in. This is the Blind Justice Channel. We're continuing on with our Blind Guide series. Today, we have with us Steve and York from the YouTube channel Steve Fox and York the Guide Dog. Welcome, Steve and York.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Yeah. And it's Saturday, right? You guys are a day ahead of us.
Yeah, early Saturday morning. Well, not super early, but early enough.
How's the future?
It's not bad today. It's going to be a nice day, I think. We'll walk up to town soon and get a coffee and go for a swim later, so it's not all bad.
Yeah, that's great. The climate there, are you guys on a different seasonal schedule than us?
We're in spring heading into summer.
Yeah.
So it's warming up here.
Yeah.
30. I went to Sydney yesterday. It was 38 degrees Celsius, which is about 100.
Yeah.
And today it's going to be a lot milder where I am on the coast here. Probably about 75 degrees Fahrenheit, about 25 Celsius.
Yeah. It's not bad. It's the opposite here. It's fall, so everything's cooling down. We're going into winter, so all the leaves are falling. Well, tell us about your YouTube channel. Like what kind of videos you do, what the focus is.
Yeah, so I originally started making videos because when I was first diagnosed with retinitis pigmentosa a long time ago, I didn't really have anyone to talk to about it. I didn't know anyone blind or vision impaired. I wasn't in a part of any community. I didn't meet anybody that was blind or vision impaired for years and years and years after I was diagnosed. And my family didn't really talk about it. So I thought I'd start sharing, what I'd been through to help maybe somebody else who'd been through a similar situation as me. Because if you're not a part of the blind and vision impaired community, which I'm pleased to say there is a lot more of a community now with social media and all the rest of it, it's a difficult thing to go through on your own. So that's where I started from with the channel. But basically, I share my experience. I get out and about with York and we have some fun. We make videos going around just doing what we do. And I try to show a side of being blind or vision impaired that's not, people can't imagine when they're diagnosed what their life's going to be like, how I still go surfing and stand up paddleboarding and do different things as well. So it's a bit of a mixture.
That's awesome. I can relate in some sense as far as like the transition from, I had sight most of my life, and when the sight loss came on, it was gradual. So I had some time to adjust, and then it was really, I was kind of in denial, like not accepting the fact that my vision is getting scary bad, like before I stopped driving, and then but then it was trying to figure out how to transition from that with a community. Like, I didn't seek out a blind community or visual impairment community. Luckily enough, I had the Veterans Affairs hospital that has low vision and blind rehab services, and they've been great as far as getting me tools and training and everything like that to help me transition. And they also try to work with plug-in blind veterans into different, like you said, groups, social media and whatnot.
I can totally relate to what you're saying, because I was one of those people as well. I had retinitis pigmentosa, and I waited until I was at crisis point before I reached out for help. And I think there's a lot of people in that category that, have sight and they hang on to that little bit of sight and their world gets smaller and smaller and smaller.
Yeah.
So I definitely, on my YouTube channel, I don't say do what I've done, because I did almost everything bad, all the wrong things, but at least I came out the other side and life is good again.
Yeah. It's interesting, like the metaphors, with losing your sight and like the darkness that you kind of go into mentally or spiritually, it's crushing, it's a very tough experience. And I think that's That's why there's a I think it's a TED talk. I have to send you the link. I have to find it. There's a TED talk where I think it was a brain surgeon, neurosurgeon, did an experiment and uh, found that most people, like in his study, he found that the number one thing that people are afraid of out of all these different like life threatening things, um, losing limbs or getting a terminal disease or losing loved ones, like number one on across his study was going blind. And it's just, it's interesting.
One of the themes on my channel has been, it's not as bad as you think it's going to be. I'm not saying it's great and it's fantastic. I'd much rather have sight, but there are workarounds. You can still do things. You can still have an amazing life. It's just different.
Yeah.
And when I was growing up with no one to talk to about it and no support, the picture that I built up for myself in my head was a lot worse than the reality. And I'm not saying the reality is great, but York and I can jump on a bus and go wherever we want. We can jump on a train. We can walk into town and get a coffee. I can do everything that everybody else does. I just do it differently.
Yeah, that's great. So when did your sight loss start?
I think always, I was diagnosed at the age of 12.
Okay.
But when I was diagnosed with retinitis pigmentosa, I already had 10 degrees of vision. I had
Yeah.
10 degrees in one eye and 11 in the other eye. And I had total night blindness. So I was already very vision impaired when I was first diagnosed. But my central vision was quite good. So I went through normal school. I played regular sport. I had to give up not long after that because the kids were getting bigger and the ball was moving faster. But I took up surfing, and I've been surfing for 40 years.
That's awesome.
I surf with a sighted guide now, but I surfed for a long time just with my little bit of central vision. So, yeah, I've always had sight problems, but it's just been a long, gradual process. And I'm now in my early 50s, and probably 6 years ago, 8 years ago, I really hit crisis point.
Yeah. Have you done any formal schooling or training as far as like getting O&M or any kind of IT training?
So I've had orientation mobility training with a cane. Again, I didn't get that until, late. I should have had it 30 years ago, but I was one of those stubborn people walking around bumping into poles and kicking over slippery when wet signs. So I got that eventually, and that was like a light bulb moment. Why wasn't I doing this earlier? And I got York, my guide dog, a couple of years ago, and he's been amazing for me. Recently, I've had some training in the kitchen to try and, not that I've ever been much of a cook, but at least get some skills using the oven and the barbecue again. And I've had a few bits and pieces, yeah.
Let's go into that. What do you do in the kitchen or with the barbecue? Do you have bump dots, or do you have any kind of special devices you use to assist you with that?
I have bump dots on everything, oven, microwave, coffee machine. If it's got a surface, and I'll put a bump dot on it.
Yeah.
I use my talking scales a lot, even for things like breakfast this morning. I used to struggle to get a similar amount of cereal in the bowl all the time.
Yeah.
And get my milk distribution right.
Yeah.
So I put them on the talking scales, and I can measure out my cereal and measure out the weight in milk, and perfect. And it's really easy.
Nice.
I use liquid level indicator for making tea, but other than that, if it's a glass of water or something, I just use sound to work out when I'm near the top.
Yep.
So, yeah, little things like that.
Cool. What about I don't think I've talked to anybody about brushing teeth. How do you go about brushing your teeth? Do you use a tooth powder, or if you use paste, how do you get it from the tube and into your mouth and not all over your hand or all over the counter?
Well, for a long time, I put it all over the floor and all over the counter. But these days, I have my own tube of toothpaste and toothbrush in a cup in the bathroom, and the toothpaste tube goes straight in my mouth. I squeeze in a little bit, and then I brush my teeth. Very easy.
Yeah.
Simple, and recommend it to anybody.
Yeah, I've talked to a few different blind people, and either they do it straight into the mouth, or they just apply it onto their finger and then put it in their mouth, or they use tooth powder. So with the tooth powder, it's instead of a paste, it's like it comes in a little jar or container, and you just wet your toothbrush, and then you dip it into the powder, and you're good to go. So
you learn something every day. I didn't know there was such a thing as tooth powder.
Yeah, it, there's different brands and different flavors and stuff, so you can try it out. And if it's not for you, actually, some of them I like. It feels like that gets my teeth cleaner than paste. But I always like sharing to figure out what everybody else is using and maybe do something a little different if I need to.
And really, I've had a little bit of interaction with groups, guide dogs, and there's another organisation, Australia Vision Australia. The most tips I've received on techniques and all the rest of it is from talking to other blind and vision impaired people. So these are the sort of small conversations that you need to have that really do help people in a practical way. So it's great.
Yeah, no, it's great. Thanks for coming on. What about mobility? You primarily use York. Do you take your cane with you still?
I use a cane sometimes if I'm going somewhere that's really noisy. I'm going to a concert tonight. York will stay at home.
Yeah.
If it's really crowded and I'm worried somebody's going to step on him, I won't take him. But other than that, he comes with me everywhere. So I still use my cane, maybe once or twice a week for different things.
Cool. What kind of tip do you use?
I use the giant rolling ball.
Yeah.
We have a lot of cracks in the footpath, and it's just so annoying getting the tip of the cane stuck in somewhere, and to me it's just much easier.
Yeah, getting jabbed in the gut, or if cane arm is out to your side and you have somebody walking with you, they catch your elbow.
Yeah. So I have had a couple of instances. Once I had a small dog run out and grab it because it looked like a tennis ball.
Yeah.
And once I was in a tug of war with a 3-year-old who just thought that was the best thing they'd ever seen, a ball on a stick.
Yes.
So apart from that, the giant ball on the end of the cane, it works well for me.
Yeah, I think I've tried all kinds of different canes or cane tips, and that big rolling ball seems to be like most universally helpful for me, like different terrain, and I get good feedback from it tactilely and auditorily, so it's really good. Navigation. Do you use any apps on your phone, or what tools and tips do you use for navigating?
Not really. I have an area probably of about 100 miles of places where I go, but I know those areas, so I'm pretty familiar with my surroundings. So I don't. Yeah, if I'm going somewhere where I've never been before, I must admit I would go with my wife or a support person.
Yeah.
I don't use a navigation device or something like that.
Okay.
I should learn, but I haven't done that yet.
Yeah, there's a really good app on the iPhone. I don't know if it's available on Android, but it's called Blind Square, and it gives you auditorily, like, so I have a bone conduction headset that I use while I'm out of the house, and it syncs up with my phone. So it you can put in you do a normal search for anything, food or restaurant or whatever you want, and then it gives you a list. You can pick off that list. It gives you distance and direction to each item, so you know what's closest to you. And then while you're walking around, if you just have it running, whether you have a destination picked or not, it will give you what intersection you're coming up to, distance to that intersection. It'll read this, the intersection road names.
Really good. One of the issues that I have where I live is I'm on the south coast of New South Wales. I live in a village of about 4,000 people.
Yeah.
And a lot of that information just isn't on the internet. If I did a search for cafes where I live, it would probably come up with one, maybe two.
Yeah.
But I know there's at least a dozen or 15. So
interesting.
Yeah, we haven't caught up with all of the information being uploaded to the internet yet.
Yeah, I'm not sure how the app populates its information. I know it doesn't have like a visual map or anything like that, so it's made specifically to be done with a screen reader like VoiceOver. So it's a great tool. I love it. You can save locations, so even if they don't have the GPS information for the places you go, you can save them yourself on your device, and then you have that plugged in and it stays with you. So it's pretty cool. What kind of phone do you use? Mobile phone?
Definitely a big fan of the iPhone.
Yeah.
And again, I was one of those people that didn't have a smartphone for a long time, but now I love it. So yeah, I'm a VoiceOver user on the iPhone.
Yeah.
And I access everything through that. I've made a couple of videos on it. I wouldn't call myself a tech guy at all, but what I've found is if I've learned a skill from somebody, if I make a video about it, then that gets it into my brain, and if I want to, I can go back and refer to it as well later on. So I made a few videos on the iPhone for other people, but as much as anything to help me as well.
Well, I'll share with you my newest voiceover trick that I picked up recently that I'm loving. It's a way to copy and paste. We'll copy anything that is read on your voiceover, and it's a 3-finger quadruple tap, I think. Do you know this one? Do you know this trick?
It's not something I've done a lot of. But
yeah,
I did know it was available, but I haven't used it a lot.
Yeah, so it's pretty cool if you're trying to copy like a whole section, or even if it's a small bit that you don't want to mess with the rotor to try to copy and paste. You can just copy the whole thing and then paste it in whatever you're pasting it, and then edit it there. So it's pretty handy little.
The one that I use a lot is the backwards Z. Do you use that?
To scrub?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So a long time I was looking for the back button all the time, and
yeah,
that one is amazing. So I use that all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did a video on gestures on the iPhone, just to show people where to find the help and how to go through all the gestures and find out what they are, and how to customize gestures as well.
Right.
So the rotor I find really awkward. So I changed my rotor gesture to a 2-finger swipe left or swipe right.
Nice.
Which for me is so much easier.
Yeah. Yeah, that was I think this year where they made it so you can customize that. It's really cool. Computer. Do you use a computer, or you primarily use your mobile for everything?
So I've got an iMac computer, big 27-inch monitor, and that's what I edit my videos on. Can't really see what's on the video, but with my site, I have a tiny amount of central vision so that I can see that there's something on the screen, even if I can't see the detail. So I use a combination of speech, magnification, voiceover, and that's the way I edit my videos.
Nice.
I have to get my wife to check the videos before they go out. A few times there's been unintended things in the background that I've had no idea they were there. So
yeah,
basically I edit the video, I edit the audio track, and the video just goes along for the ride.
Right.
And yeah, I need to have a second person to check everything before it goes out, that's for sure.
What kind of camera do you use mainly for your videos?
So I use the iPhone. I've got an iPhone 11, so it's got a pretty good camera on it.
Yeah.
It's totally accessible. And I use a GoPro, which is, I would say, mostly accessible.
Right.
So the GoPro, I put it on my chest with a chest mount, and with the voice, you can operate it with your voice. So that's how I use for surfing, stand-up paddleboarding, walking around with York. I use the GoPro.
Nice. if you take notes, if you need to take notes for something, would you use what's your primary way of taking notes? Note taking.
I've got to say, I don't really take notes.
Yeah.
I stopped working about 8 years ago, retired. I do have a little voice dictaphone thing,
Right.
which I use if I have to, but I'm on a few committees and things like that, but I just say, email it to me. Or I might I do use my phone a lot, and I create reminders and put things on the calendar.
Sure.
But yeah, as far as taking lots of notes, I tend not to.
Okay.
I've got a good memory.
Nice. What's the common like reaction or response you get from people in public when you're out walking with York?
That's an interesting one because it depends on where I am. Where I live, when I got York, because my background is the media, I went on a bit of a front foot campaign, wrote a letter for the local newspaper, an article rather than a letter, and I made a video about guide dogs, and I posted that to the local dog park group. So I created my own press releases basically, and now everybody in town, pretty much, they know York, they know me, they know how to interact with a guide dog. They're really good.
Cool.
If I go somewhere outside the area, you really do notice the difference between the general public and how they interact with a guide dog, and the lack of education amongst people that want to, yell out to your guide dog when you're trying to cross a road. They want to pat your guide dog at a totally inappropriate time. Not that there's ever an appropriate time.
Yeah.
Just lack of understanding. The other day I was crossing a road somewhere, and I was still standing on the road in traffic, and a guy walked up with his dog and said, "Is it okay if my dog talks to your dog?" I said, "No, I'm on the road. I'm trying to get to the other side." Just ridiculous behaviour.
Yeah. That
So education of the general public, that's a big one for me.
Yeah.
People that are blind and vision impaired, guide dogs, cane users, it's really important.
Yeah, we're finding it's very low, like as far as the level of education here in the States. General public just doesn't have much exposure or education on how to engage with somebody with a visual impairment, with a guide dog or with a cane, or just in common everyday life.
Yeah, I find most people, when you talk to them, I feel like getting angry and giving them a lecture, but I don't. But I find if you do take the time to talk to somebody and educate them, they're grateful. They then say, "Oh, I didn't know."
Yeah.
And I can't get angry at somebody for not knowing, but I think it's really important that we try to educate.
Yeah, that's kind of our experience too with especially like personal encounters with people or in the private sector, like in businesses. I would say it's even, I don't know if it's majority, it might be around 50-50 in the public sector and government buildings and doing things with government, where the government employees here are kind of they resist or resent somebody trying to teach them anything.
But
yeah.
As an example, the town where I live, where I wrote an article, put a couple of photos with it for the local Village Whispers newsletter, and made a couple of videos that I posted to the local dog park groups. Now York and I can walk into town, and I live in a holiday area, so when all the tourists aren't here and there's lots of people from outside, but when the locals are here,
yeah,
they'll smile, they'll say, "Hi, Steve." If they've got a dog with them, they'll take them away so that their dog doesn't disturb York when he's trying to work. They're really respectful. They're, really helpful. And it's just the contrast in the way people act when they know and they don't know is amazing.
Yeah. That's cool. I'm glad you've having success there locally, and hopefully we can expand that so that when you travel outside of your normal area, then you can have
Well,
more
that's the
more
power of
ease.
social media and YouTube, isn't it? That you can reach a lot of people.
Yeah. Have you had any obstacles other than some of the stuff you mentioned with the guy stopping you in the road? Like anything in a business or public sector trying to get access? Uh, any issues with access getting denied or
Not
extra
really.
hurdles?
I've been denied a couple of times with York, my guide dog, but that's just an initial denial. And then when I've actually spoken to them and explained, that's been fine.
Yeah.
I've never really had an issue with access or anything at all.
Do you do, other than the public education that you've been doing, do you do any kind of advocacy?
So I'm on a
Go ahead.
couple of committees.
Yeah.
A committee with guide dogs, the organisation from a client point of view. So we try to help them to help their clients, us, in the best possible way. And the local council here, I'm on a disability access committee.
Great.
So we talk about access to buildings, access to material that's put out by the council, things like that. So it represents all disabilities, but I'm there flying the flag for people that are blind and vision impaired.
Nice. Are you a Braille user, Braille reader?
No, my eyesight was good enough to read for a long time. It's not anymore.
Yeah.
But by the time Braille would have been useful, my fingertips, I think they're worn out. I can't feel the bumps and dots. It's not going to work for me.
Do you play string instrument?
Play a little bit of the ukulele, but not a lot.
Yeah, nice. I love this guy. He surfs and he plays the uke.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
What about entertainment or personal defense?
Entertainment. What kind of things you do other than hiking around with York and surfing and paddleboarding?
Go to the club and have dinner and a couple of drinks. Go to trivia on a Thursday night.
Okay.
We haven't been doing too badly lately, so that's good. Trivia competitions. I don't know if you have those in the US, but it's a night where they have a whole bunch of teams and we get together and answer trivia questions to win cash prizes. It's a bit of a laugh. Going to a concert tonight. Just stuff that everybody else does. I watch TV with audio description.
Yes.
Go out for coffee pretty much every day. It's just what everybody else does, regular life.
Yeah. With the audio description, any specific platform that you like or that you can recommend to people?
Generally, the one that I have is Netflix.
Uh-huh.
A lot of that is audio described, which is good. A couple of the free-to-air channels in Australia are audio described now as well. The ABC and SBS are audio described, which is great. That's about it. I have Apple TV.
Yeah, there's some on Apple that are having. I think I'm finding more and more the newer things that are released have it, at least on the streaming platforms. I think the ones that in the States anyway that get released on cable, we don't have cable, but whenever Netflix or another streaming platform picks them up, they a lot of times don't have the audio description, but it's coming. I think it's just like the closed captioning when it first started. It wasn't a standardized thing. They just had to pay for that service and get it done. So
I think it's great, but I still watch TV if it's not audio described, depending on the show. If there's a lot of conversation.
Yeah.
Obviously, I don't watch action adventure movies where there's big sections of just loud music and banging. I don't know what's going on, but if it's a movie that's a lot of audio, then I'll follow along. That's fine.
Right. Yeah. The amount of communication that it's nonverbal, I think it's been estimated it's either between 70 to 90%. So that moves us into the next question. Do you use Be My Eyes? Have you heard that app?
Yeah, I've got Be My Eyes and Aira and use them a little bit. I wouldn't say a lot, but definitely very worthwhile. And going back to your point with the non-verbal communication. That really used to bother me before I was a cane user or a guide dog user, because people would walk up to me and hold out their hand.
Yeah.
I had no idea that they're holding out their hand. One of the things that's been really beneficial that, I hadn't even contemplated earlier, with having that symbol of being blind or vision impaired with a cane or a guide dog, it lets people know, somebody walks up to you and you're standing with a guide dog and they hold their hand out and you don't respond, very quickly they say, "Oh, look, I'm sorry,"
Right.
But you can't blame people for what they don't know. And I think that me being out there as a blind person, rather than trying to live as a blind person in a sighted world without telling people I'm blind, it's much easier living as a blind person. Much more comfortable, much easier.
Yeah. Yeah, there's awkward moments when I'm meeting people or saying goodbye to people. It's usually the saying goodbye. I think it's where it's more awkward moments, because the non-visual communication that I'm missing. Because typically I'm pretty quick to offer my hand for either a fist bump or a handshake when meeting somebody, unless it's a close friend or whatever. Then I'll just pull them in for a hug. But saying goodbye to somebody or departing, there's not really a standard etiquette that I'm aware of for what to do.
It can still be awkward, but at least people understand why it's awkward.
Yeah,
which is good.
Yeah, if I'm with my my veteran buddies, they always set people up for failure. They'll send people over to me and not tell them, like, if we're sitting down somewhere and my cane's folded up or whatever, and they'll I think we were at a surfing event, and one of these pro surfers came over to say hi, and he was talking to us and was then addressed me like specifically, and I talked to him, and then when he left, everybody just died laughing. I'm like, what did I miss? And like he was holding his hand out like for a fist bump like the whole time, and nobody told him.
Don't worry, my buddies do that too.
Yeah.
On the surf, and they'll say, "You should go on this wave," and then I paddle and get wiped out, and they all have a great laugh.
Yes. Oh man, it's a good group of friends that can laugh at your at your expense.
You've got to be. If you can't have a laugh,
yeah,
it's going to be a very tough life.
Yeah. No, it's a lot of the guys I go surfing with. It's through a nonprofit.
Well.
Yeah.
Oh, great, fantastic.
Yeah, mainly wake surfing though, so it's a lot easier. I don't have to go out and fight the surf to to catch a wave. I just hop out behind the boat and the boat makes the wave for me. So
that's great.
Yeah. But the guys I go with are a bunch of wounded veterans, so they are missing all kinds of body parts and all kinds of trauma and damage, and so we have a good laugh at each other and push each other to overcome those obstacles, and it's always a fun time.
That's great that you do that.
Yeah. I think you mentioned Aira. You said you use Aira?
Yeah, I've used it a few times. I don't use it a lot. I use the free minutes that they have. And
right.
They're very good.
Just with your phone, or do you actually have the hardware, like the glasses with the camera?
Just on my phone.
Yeah. Have you used or tried any of the wearable cameras that are made specifically for visual impairment? No. Yeah, I've tried the Orcam, and I can go ahead.
I have had a demo of the Orcam.
Yeah.
So I've tried the one that you wear on glasses.
Right.
And it is good, but I'm actually going to get the Orcam Read.
Okay.
I don't know if you're familiar with that one.
That's the new one, right?
It's the new. It's the same as the Orcam that goes in your glasses, except it's a portable one that you can keep in your pocket that just reads. It doesn't do the color recognition or the money or those things. It just reads documents, which I love it. It's great.
Do you have any problems lining up what you needed to read?
Took a little bit of practice, but no. So I just put the Orcam right on the document and then pull it further away. And I think because I had sight for a long time,
Yeah.
I'm used to holding things and lining them up.
Sure.
And now I can do it without sight, I suppose.
Now is that Bluetooth compatible? So can you connect the audio to like a Bluetooth headset or something?
Yeah, you can connect it to AirPods or something.
Do you use any kind of headset while you're out walking around?
Not while I'm walking around, no.
So the one I use is it's called, I think the brand is Aftershokz, and it's a bone conduction. So it just sits around your ears and then connects to your jawbone, and then jawbone's connected to the ear bone, and you get your audio that way for navigation and different alerts, or if I need to talk to somebody.
It's actually on my shopping list. I've seen a few people talking about it, and it's one of the things I want to get and try out.
Yeah, it's really great because I used to just plug in like one, earbud to one ear, but then I was losing a lot of the auditory sense walking around, and had to like move ahead more to pick it up. And then I got this bone conduction, and it was a game changer. So, do you do anything for self-defense? Do you have any like self-defense training or any kind of self-defense measures that you carry with you for your personal security while you're out walking around?
I live in a really small town, and I think somebody got a parking ticket once, but that's about it. It's not really high on my my level of priorities.
Yeah.
When I catch the train into the city, my wife tells me to wear army camouflage and black t-shirts so I look scarier. But apart from that, no, not really. But
yeah,
I've never had any problems. I'm 6'3" and 15 stone, and I don't know. Nobody's ever really, given me any issues at all.
Yeah. I wear the same thing, probably like the GoPro chest rig, kind of probably what you have. I wear that when I'm out and about. So if there's ever any issue with anything that I sense as being a hairy situation or any kind of threats to me or anybody else nearby, I'll just turn the GoPro on and try to diffuse whatever's happening. And that way I have some kind of witness, some kind of record of what what may transpire. Cool. I think that was the bulk of our questions that we had.
My only questions would be if he has anything to share with the sighted community,
Uh-huh.
and then to the visually impaired.
So she's asking if you have anything specific that you want to share with the sighted community, and then anything that would be specific to the visual impairment or blind community.
I suppose the big one for the sighted community is, and it's said all the time amongst the blind vision impaired community, but blindness is a spectrum, and people have all sorts of visual problems. Some people have central vision but no peripheral but no, vice versa.
Yeah.
So just because somebody's looking at an iPhone doesn't mean they're not vision impaired.
Yeah.
Just because you're doing one thing doesn't mean you have a problem in another area. Sight loss is like hearing loss. People can be a little bit hard of hearing, and just to be kind to each other,
Yeah.
Just try to be helpful, and people have got enough to deal with without having to deal with other people trying to call them out on something that's really not an issue. That's for the sighted community. I find that most people are really understanding if they get to know somebody that's blind or vision impaired and they can understand a little bit. So I always take time to talk to people. But for the vision impaired community, I think probably more so for the people that are just being diagnosed with an issue. Losing your sight, it's not the worst thing in the world. You can still have an amazing life. You can still enjoy the things that you like to do. You might have to do them a little bit differently. You might have to do something similar that you did before. You know, I'm never going to be a racing car driver, but there are things that I can do, you know, as a legally blind person getting around with a guide dog to still have an amazing life. You can still get out there and have a great time.
That's awesome. There is a blind race car driver. I think he used to race cars, and then he lost his vision, and I think now he's trying to set like land speed records and you know, fast cars, like, and he's blind. So there is really, there is no limit. You know, people say, well, it's how do you do this if you have this disability, you have this problem? Like, well, there's a way to figure out how to do it. You know, there's ways around it. There's the human spirit and ingenuity, especially if we pool our resources and share, you know, different ways that we're doing things. It's really amazing.
Absolutely. You just got to find out how you can get it done.
Yeah.
You break it down step by step. Like me with surfing, I thought I'd never be able to surf once I lost my sight. But, you know, okay, if I'm paddling into the waves, I'm going out. So that's one. Once I'm out the back, if somebody tells me when there's a wave coming and which direction I'm going to go in, you know, if you break it down into little tiny baby steps,
yeah,
all of a sudden you're out there and you're surfing.
Have you ever had York out surfing with you?
York's been on the stand-up paddleboard with me.
Yeah.
So he basically likes to go wherever I go.
Yeah.
And I think surfing is probably a bit too much for him.
Yeah. Probably in the ocean. If you ever get a chance to go surf behind a boat, that I think once you get your legs under you and you figure it out, that could be pretty cool to take York on a wake surf adventure.
Yeah, stand-up paddleboarding. He's been on the board, and yeah, he's fine. He just sits there and goes for the ride.
Yeah. What kind of dog is York?
He's a large yellow Labrador.
Okay.
And a few minutes ago, don't take this as an insult, but he was snoring.
That's awesome. Yeah, when we first connected, Mrs. Justice said hi to York, and York, like, she said he popped up and was saying hi, so that's cool. Well, Steve, any questions for us?
No, not really. I think you know what you're doing, like all the other blind, vision impaired YouTubers, doing a great job, and let's just get the word out there and, you know, try and make the world a better place.
Yeah. Thanks for coming on and telling us how you get through life and navigate the world and are out there shredding waves and exploring the down under with York. That's awesome, man.
Well, if ever they open up the borders again, maybe I'll be knocking on your door saying, teach me how to go wakeboarding.
Oh man. So I've tried wakeboarding a few times. There's a difference between wakeboarding and wake surfing. Like wakeboarding,
okay.
Yeah, wakeboarding, you go like 3 times faster. So wake surfing is a lot slower. You're only going like 10 or 11 miles an hour, and it's, you know, it's on a surfboard. And with the wakeboard, your feet are strapped into the boots, and you go a lot faster. So it's a lot harder on your body on the wakeboard. I've tried it a couple times and like messed up my knees. I have bad knees, so I keep it slow and rock the surfboard, and that's fun enough. And yeah, I love it. But definitely
just getting out there, that's, you know, half of it. Just getting out in the water.
Yeah.
The sunshine.
Yeah, there's something therapeutic, something healing about it. And I definitely want to visit your end of the world and hopefully someday link up and shred some waves. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, well, come and I'll teach you how to surf.
All right, man. Appreciate it. You take it easy, Steve. Bye, York.
Talk to you.
Yeah.
Bye, Christina.
Bye. Thanks.
Bye.